I can look over a history of CLP that extends over 120 years, and in any period there were some very big challenges that we needed to overcome, and that Hong Kong needed to overcome as well. So at any point in time there is always going to be some big challenges. I think one important thing is to look well ahead and to think long term. It's very easy to get caught up in the challenges of today and think that this is quite tough. But if you think over a long enough period, it starts to put these into perspective. Every period of challenge has been also a period of opportunity, an opportunity for growth, an opportunity to adapt.
喺睇片之前，大家記得分享、讚好同訂閱灼見名家，最緊要撳埋呢個鐘仔，咁你就唔會錯過我哋嘅最新影片。
Well, we operate in Hong Kong, mainland China, Australia and India. And in each of these markets we have a plan to decarbonize our business. If you look at Hong Kong, where we produce, the electricity sector produces around 65% of Hong Kong's carbon emissions, then we have a big responsibility. And if we decarbonize our business, it decarbonizes the electricity supply for the whole of Hong Kong. And that means that carbon-free energy can be made available to the transportation sector. If you look at electric vehicles, for example, that can be a way that carbon-free energy can be provided to other sectors. So the sooner that we decarbonize the electricity sector, the sooner carbon-free electricity can be made available to other sectors, and that can help Hong Kong achieve its decarbonisation. And everywhere we operate, whether it's in Australia or whether it's in mainland China, that same principle applies. The faster that we can decarbonise, the faster that we can provide decarbonised energy to our customers. I think it is very critical. I think it is one of the most critical issues facing the planet, because climate change is, it is really hard to reverse that. It is something which will have a lasting impact. And every time we emit carbon dioxide today, we're contributing to a more rapid acceleration of the warming of the planet. And whilst we may look at the weather today and think, it hasn't changed that much, but over time we will see stronger storms, we'll see rainfall in places where it's never rained before, we'll see droughts in places where we used to have it, so that will affect how we grow food, it'll affect whole populations. So it will have a very big impact on the planet. This is not something which is just anecdotal in the sense that we see weather patterns changing. This is the result of the work of thousands of scientists under the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change that have been studying this for 30 years. So the science behind climate change is actually very sound, and the predictions are quite stark. Well, 2050 seems a long way away, and when we first issued our climate vision, it was back in 2007. So we've had now 13 years of experience, and we have made steady progress towards decarbonising our business. The most critical measure that we look at is how quickly we can achieve a net zero target. That means running our business without any net emissions of greenhouse gases. So that's our target. We now have set that as our target for 2050. But we do need to make steady progress along the way. So what is important is the interim targets that we've also set. First of those is to eliminate coal from our business by 2040, and we have made that commitment, and we have with all of our commitments, a solid business plan to achieve those. So this is not just a target, it's a target that comes with a very clear and practical business plan. And the second important target is really to set ourselves some interim targets along the way. So eliminating coal by 2040, and by 2030 we would also expect that around 90% of carbon emissions will be eliminated from our business. So we'll have made by 2030 a pretty drastic step in decarbonising our business. It's important to realise that it's fossil fuel power plants that produce emissions. So in order to cut emissions, you have to shut down those plants. Before you can shut down those plants, you've got to have built a replacement, and that replacement has to be carbon free. So the choices that we have in Hong Kong, for example, nuclear power is one, and we have been using nuclear power from the Daya Bay nuclear power station since the 1990s. Renewable energy is another. Now, it's a fact that renewable energy does take up a lot of space. If you have solar farms or wind farms, they do take up a lot of area. And Hong Kong, as we all know, has very limited space. But looking offshore, we believe that offshore wind technology can be a viable option for Hong Kong. And if we think regionally, not just within the confines of Hong Kong waters, you can start to develop projects at scale which can bring the cost of renewable energy down. So with technology improvements and by thinking regionally and at scale, we believe that offshore wind can be a viable technology for Hong Kong. Now, we also use natural gas in our fuel mix, and natural gas produces much less carbon than coal, but it still does produce carbon. And with natural gas, there is a replacement with hydrogen. And hydrogen is a fuel that has no carbon emissions. It can be produced cleanly from renewable energy, and you can think of it as a way of storing renewable energy in the form of hydrogen. You can produce it from renewable energy, transport it, and then use it in a gas power generator. So hydrogen is a way that we can eliminate the carbon emissions from natural gas. So with those three options, with nuclear power, offshore wind, and natural gas, we believe that Hong Kong can achieve a decarbonised electricity supply. Yes, if Hong Kong thinks of itself solely as a city and that all its energy needs have to be met within the confines of the city, it will be a little bit like New York or London or Paris trying to be decarbonised and ignoring anything outside its city limits, which would be crazy. So Hong Kong needs to think about the land use that's available outside the city. It needs to look at opportunities just across the border and look at things in a sensible way to say, how do we fit in within our region, and how do we make use of the land and the resources that are around us? We have actually been doing this going back to the 1990s when I mentioned the Daya Bay nuclear power station that is located 60 kilometers away in Guangdong province, and we bring the electricity to Hong Kong. So we have already been working as part of a regional energy solution, and that really is the way forward for Hong Kong. Well, first of all, yes, it will require significant investment and a steady investment over a long period of time. To achieve decarbonisation by 2050 means that we have to make steady investment over the next 30 years. However, investments are spread out over a long period of time. They have a long life. So the cost of that investment is not incurred in any one year. It's spread over a 25 or 30-year life of that asset. So that is one thing which will help. But another consideration is that at the moment, the cost of the fuel that we buy to produce electricity is the biggest single cost. And if we're eliminating the cost of buying fuel then that will result in savings. So with nuclear power, with renewable energy, and if we're producing hydrogen from renewable energy as a way of energy storage, then all of that is eliminating the need for us to buy fossil fuels on the international market. And so that will result in a cost saving. So when you put all of this together, and if you've got the ability to plan and coordinate this in a sensible way, I believe that the costs will be very manageable, and we will keep a supply of electricity which is reliable and affordable.
Yeah.
Well, yes, of course we are all concerned about the price of energy, but increasingly we're becoming concerned about the carbon footprint of the energy that we're consuming. So we have to address the carbon footprint. We have no choice in that. The question is then, how do we make sure that we are addressing the carbon emissions as quickly as we can, but without incurring unnecessary cost, and to keep the cost at the minimum? I think we have a great opportunity in Hong Kong to plan and to do this in a sensible and logical time frame. I think we have a great opportunity to work regionally so that we can get the best choices and the most economic deals available. And if we do this right, then I believe we can manage the cost impact and keep it as little as possible. Absolutely, we've seen a huge acceleration in the pace of innovation and technology with digitalization, but how that benefits CLP and our customers is both directly and indirectly. One thing to look at is the cost of renewable energy, which has fallen exponentially over the last decade, and that's come about through innovation and technology. So the technologies that we can deploy are now far more affordable than they were 10 years ago. So that's one benefit that we've already achieved. With artificial intelligence, with digitalization, with smarter manufacturing techniques, all of the equipment that we have now is providing much more benefit to our customers. And just to look at one example, for example, smart meters. In the past, electricity meters had to be manually read, and for a customer to understand how much electricity they were using, it was almost a case of you had to write down the numbers on a dial and do a calculation to see how much you'd used over a week or a month. Very manually intensive, and really not much help to customers. But now with smart meters, you can link that to an app on your iPhone and you can see instantly how much energy you're using. So using energy wisely, using energy smartly will also help reduce the cost of the energy you're using. If you're unnecessarily using energy because your air conditioner isn't well maintained or because you've accidentally left it on, you can now have technology that will tell you that. It's going extremely well. In fact, we have installed now smart meters to around half of our customers, and over the next few years we'll have completed that installation. We now have technology on your iPhone that you can access an app to see exactly how much energy you're using, so already many of our customers are benefiting from that. We have been using the principles of sustainability for decades. Our business is 120 years old, and you don't get to be a sustainable business without thinking long term and without adopting the principles of sustainability. Essentially, you need to run your business in a way that is not going to detract from future generations. So that is essentially how we think. For us, it's important to understand where society, where the communities in which we operate, what's important to those communities. So addressing climate change, making sure that our business is meeting the social needs and the social objectives of society, and understanding those and taking those on board and adapting our business so that it is continually meeting the needs of society. I think it's also important that we set targets so that we are very clear. Our Climate Vision 2050, for example, is a set of targets to meet a climate objective. And so setting targets and being very transparent about how we're meeting those targets. So all of that is factored into our approach to sustainability. It's understanding and communicating with our stakeholders, understanding their needs. It's setting targets for our business, and it's communicating and reporting our progress on meeting those targets. We, as you quite rightly point out, we have been operating as part of the Greater Bay Area since actually going back to the 1970s, when we first started supplying electricity to Guangdong province. So our electricity system operates as part of a wider network in the Greater Bay Area. I believe that as Hong Kong integrates more with the Greater Bay Area, we will see more opportunities to improve our infrastructure, to improve the solutions that we have available to us. So energy is a good example of that. If we think regionally, if we look at opportunities outside the boundaries of Hong Kong, we can come up with better solutions than if we confine ourselves to thinking in Hong Kong. Land is quite scarce in Hong Kong. We know that. If we're looking at clean energy solutions such as renewable energy and nuclear power, we need to think about siting those facilities, not just within Hong Kong's boundaries, but outside those boundaries. And that represents opportunities for us to work closely with partners in the Greater Bay Area, so that we're contributing not just to a decarbonised Hong Kong, but to a decarbonised Greater Bay Area. We've always seen that supplying electricity provides an important social service, meets an important social need. Energy is something that everybody needs for their daily lives. So it's natural for us to think about our business as supporting the needs of society. Now, there are things that we can do beyond just the provision of reliable, affordable and clean electricity. We are also a large employer. We employ around 4,500 people directly in Hong Kong, but indirectly we have business partnerships and services that are provided by contractors and consultants and our business partners in Hong Kong. So the way that we operate our business, the standards that we apply to our workplace, looking at issues such as our gender mix and whether we're getting the right balance in our workforce, looking at training and looking at providing employment opportunities for young people. All of these are things that naturally flow on from our business. So we do take our social responsibility very seriously. I think that is natural for a business that is providing an essential service to the community. And so that flows into just the way that we operate and the decisions that we take in our business. I can look over a history of CLP that extends over 120 years, and in any period there were some very big challenges that we needed to overcome and that Hong Kong needed to overcome as well. So at any point in time there is always going to be some big challenges. I think one important thing is to look well ahead and to think long term. It's very easy to get caught up in the challenges of today and think that this is quite tough. But if you think over a long enough period, it starts to put these into perspective. Every period of challenge has been also a period of opportunity, an opportunity for growth, an opportunity to adapt. So managing the COVID pandemic, managing the supply of energy, managing price shocks in the global energy supply, all of these have happened in the past. We've come through them, and we've learnt some lessons along the way, and making sure that we have diversity in our energy supplies, making sure that we're planning well ahead, not just looking a few years ahead, but looking several decades ahead in our planning, and making sure that we're always working in the interests of the communities that we operate, and particularly in Hong Kong, which is our home. To take that long-term view, I think, is the way that we will continue to overcome challenges. Well, we've talked about climate change, and I would say for our industry, that is the big challenge, because what we are needing to do is to completely replace all of the infrastructure that we have developed over the last 120 years and replace that with carbon-free energy in the next 30 years. That's a huge challenge. We are seeing that change affecting every economy around the world. So we are seeing the traditional forms of energy supply all being changed and evolved. So that's requiring quite a lot of change to our business. We've seen a global pandemic, and we haven't yet seen a way out of that. So managing our business and making sure that the health and safety of our customers and our people is well looked after. That's another immediate challenge. And we've talked about the supply disruptions in energy supply caused by conflicts around the world. So we've got quite a lot of challenges to deal with. I have a very positive outlook, and I've lived in Hong Kong for 30 years, so I've seen a lot of change here, and I believe that with the opportunities that we have in the Greater Bay Area, it will be very positive for Hong Kong. I think we will have access to solutions that we haven't had in the past, and with Hong Kong being an international city in the Greater Bay Area, it represents an opportunity for us to be a very special part of a very big economic entity, which I think will be great for Hong Kong. No, I think we've covered everything. I think perhaps the two important messages are: I have a positive outlook for Hong Kong. In the current circumstances, it's very easy to be feeling very down and feeling very negative. But I think with the Greater Bay Area, that's a great opportunity for Hong Kong. I think the other important message is that with climate change, it is real. We have to address that, and it can be done. We're very honoured to be receiving the ESG award. It's something that we feel is the right way to run our business. We don't do things to win awards, but it's always good for morale, and it's good encouragement when we do receive them. So it is great to receive a recognition for our efforts. It provides a lot of encouragement for our people. Doing all the hard work in compiling reports and writing reports can be a bit of a drudgery at times, so it's always nice to have that recognition, and it does lift our team spirit. So thank you very much.
中意名家分析，記得俾 like 同埋分享，支持同訂閱灼見名家，最緊要撳埋呢個鐘仔，咁就唔會錯過我哋嘅新片。